Ben-Hur on 4K is easily one of the best 4Ks I have ever seen. Now, I think the question on pretty much everybody's mind is, does the 4K look better than the already amazing looking Blu-ray? I mean, on the phone it doesn't do it justice, but the depth of image on this scene at 11 minutes in, when the people are visiting Jesus in the place where he was born, manger. Anyway, it's the depth of this scene. It almost looks 3D. As far as the film grain goes on the 4K image, a lot of these bright sky scenes are a really good way to judge the film grain. And one thing I can say is that there's consistent film grain throughout the entire movie. There's absolutely zero evidence of any grain management or DNR that scrubs out the grain and the detail. A lot of people say that they have a hard time enjoying movies while they're looking at film grain and all those things, but I don't. I can do both. I can look at for film grain, but also enjoy everything about the movie. One thing this 4K does incredibly well is the shadow detail, along with the colors. We'll talk about colors in just a minute here, but on scenes like this at about 41 minutes with the Dolby Vision, the shadow detail just looks incredible. Especially like on her forehead. Again, you can't tell on the phone. I'm just showing you this as an example of where to look, where you can just see the gradation of the light, the shadow on her head. Now, this next scene coming up, ever since I thought about this movie coming to 4K, I was thinking of this scene and how it was one that just dropped my jaw on the original Blu-ray. Because again, I'm not like, the original Blu-ray looks incredible. It's just that this 4K totally supplants it. And while you're watching this movie in Dolby Vision, now just a quick note on what I'm watching it on. I'm watching it on a Sony 85X 950H that's professionally calibrated by Value Electronics with a Panasonic UB820. I have two HDMI cables, one going to the soundbar, one going to the TV. The reason one goes to the soundbar is because the soundbar is a Sony HT-ST5000 that can simulate Atmos with the up-firing speakers and the side-firing speakers that are supposed to reflect around the room. Now, when you're watching this thing on Dolby Vision, you're going to think that you're in vivid mode, or your settings are wrong, because these colors are so incredibly vivid and bright and like juicy. And I don't know, there's just so much depth to the colors, and they are so bright. And I even have my TV set to Dolby Vision Dark, which is how you get the filmmaker's intent off of the disc. Oh, so what I was going to say about it looking vivid, and you're going to think your settings are wrong. The thing is, it's incredibly vivid and bright looking, but it looks correct and natural. So it's kind of crazy. It's like you're looking at, like when you're in Costco or in the store and the TVs are just way too bright and messed up looking. It's like you're looking at that, but it looks correct. So this is like a knock your socks off 4K. So like I've been alluding to, this is one of my very favorite shots in the entire movie, just because it is so incredibly epic. And as good as this part is on the 4K, this next part right there is like jaw-dropping. Just like the brightness of the red colors and the blue and the contrast between the shadows and the light. So I was switching back, and after I watched the movie, I love doing this anyway, the comparison stuff. I've been do this with everything, but I was switching back and forth between the Blu-ray and the 4K. And once you get the 4K, after looking at the Blu-ray, like the colors, like on these little things they're carrying, everything, it's just so much better on the 4K. Again, the Blu-ray looks great. You can still have a great experience watching the Blu-ray, but if you love this movie, or if you want to blind buy this movie and watch it for the first time on the best format, like this is it. This thing is outrageous. Now, like what I was saying earlier about this thing looking kind of 3D, just the epic cinematography shines in like the huge like action moments like this, or the gigantic scenery moments with a billion extras, but it also shines in like the small character moments, like when it's like a close-up, or when there's just a conversation happening. Like you can see individual like little twitches. Like I was just looking at the start of this race when Tika Marsala looks over at Ben-Hur, and Ben-Hur's like kind of glaring at him, like holding a steady stare, but you see like his lip like move a little bit, almost like a little sneer. So it's not just the epic moments that shine, it's all the conversations, it's everything. Like this movie kind of made me feel like when I watched The Sound of Music, on 4K where I was frequently just gobsmacked and just like, even just in the talking moments. And that's the same thing here. The Sound of Music was my choice for the top 4K of last year. I don't know how anything's going to beat this. I mean, I want to be biased just because Ben-Hur from 1959 is one of the best movies ever. But I can't see a 4K coming out this year that's going to beat this. So that's your challenge every 4K for the rest of the year. All right, now a note on the audio. So there is a Dolby Atmos track on here. And that's how I watched it. And I mentioned that I have this soundbar that has the upward firing speakers so it simulates it. Now, one thing you need to understand, this movie is still from 1959. It still sounds like the sound effects are still old-timey sounding. However, it still sounds very full and clear. You can hear everything clearly. You can hear all the sound that was created very clearly, and it does fill the soundstage and the upper speakers and everything very well. But I think an example to encapsulate kind of the old sound design versus what we're used to nowadays in more modern movies is this. Pretty much any scene during the chariot race, and again, this isn't meant for you to capture the sound, just on these like horse racing scenes, right? Like a modern movie, it would be like the bass would be pounding you in the chest. You would hear the individual like horse clop sounds. But in this, it's almost like you're hearing a bunch of pieces of wood inside an empty cereal box just shaking around. It's like it does sound like horses and it does sound epic, but it doesn't sound like Lord of the Rings with the individual loud clops like the ring wraiths, and it just doesn't have that punch of sound as a modern movie, but it doesn't take anything away from it, and the Dolby Atmos did sound incredible. But that's what I mean by it sounds old-timey. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie itself. So Ben-Hur and Masala being friends ever since childhood, and the way that story develops totally reminded me of Prince of Egypt. His friend asks for his advice on how to govern.
Advice? Yes, I do.
Listen to this.
Withdraw your allegiance. Give us our freedom.
So we have another instance of Charlton Heston trying to free the Jews. So, I mean, here is another large format film on 4K that is mind-bogglingly good looking. This is also one of the best ones ever. So just like The Sound of Music and The Searchers, just large format film like 65 millimeter like Ben-Hur with the new 8K restoration just transfers to 4K so incredibly well. But yeah, isn't that interesting that Charlton Heston played Moses, also trying to free his people? Kind of interesting. Speaking of being free, this next part where Ben-Hur says, "God help me."
God, help me.
Who should show up but the carpenter who we saw as they were all walking by? He was inside working. I love this. I love the parallel stories of Jesus and Ben-Hur. And I love that he shows up and helps him here. I think this might be the most powerful moment in the entire movie. And how powerfully he's portrayed by just hands, not even his face being shown. His hands being so gentle and caring. And how powerful this is when the Roman tries to stop him from giving him water. Look at his face. He got his Nazarene hair up here, and then this guy's just like smitten by his face. Very powerful performance by this guy too. Looking all guilty and ashamed. Watch when his hands make contact. Look at his eyes. He's realizing something here. Like he is having a moment, and it's reinforced more powerfully later in the movie, and I'll show you that part as well. So he's received like water and care like on his face and drinking, and then he touches his hands and he looks up his face, and you're just seeing like a realization or something is hitting him. He's not quite like full on believing yet because that happens later. But I love this. After having made physical contact, he stands up as if with renewed strength. And that reminds me of the story of the lady who touches the hem of Jesus's robe, and she's healed. right? And so it just made me think of that when they make contact and then he stands up and it's almost like his weariness is gone, like more than just a little drink of water would have done. You know what I mean? So I just think that's so powerfully portrayed in this scene by just very simple and subtle actions. I love how this movie just subtly weaves in the story of Jesus with Ben-Hur's own epic story and the story of his family. And like she's starting to be a believer and she's already started mentioning him. But look at how they just like stumble upon like the Sermon on the Mount. But just look at the staging of this shot. Look at all the extras. And like my phone does not do it justice, but my goodness, look at the color and the staging of this thing. It's incredible. And the Jesus moments in this movie just fit so perfectly in the narrative. And it's like each time Judah Ben-Hur is about to just crash and be all done, like something to do with Jesus comes in and it just gives him that little bump. It's pretty awesome. So like I said, Ben-Hur's not really converted at this point. And look at his dame here, how she stands out in the crowd. So like I said, he's not really converted, and so he's actually going to walk away from the Sermon on the Mount. But look at how awesomely this is framed. Like you see, he's right here teaching, and then there's Judah right there, Judah Ben-Hur, JBH. Okay, you see him just taking off there, right above his head. Okay, so now here's his dame here looking up at the master. Now, one thing about 4Ks is I think some people don't understand. Sometimes with the lead females, they go a little bit softer on the focus. So when you scan that in at 4K, it doesn't look as razor sharp as some of the other shots in the movie. That's not a problem with the 4K. You're seeing what was on the film, and that was a common practice, is to do like the soft lighting or a little bit soft focus just to give them that more angelic look. You know, leading ladies and William Shatner in The Wrath of Khan, particularly the beginning. So just quick note on that. Did you know that? So at this moment, as he's carrying his cross up here and Ben-Hur and his dame have brought the lepers to be healed, in my opinion, this is where he really is converted. Like, you saw the look on his face when he was getting water, and now he's seeing him again. He said, "I know this man." So he leaves his girlfriend and his family to go after Jesus, which is an interesting metaphor that you could get into. But look at his face here. This is such an amazing full circle moment where he falls down and Ben-Hur now gets to give him water. Such a beautiful repeat of the same thing. Now watch this. They touch hands and they make eye contact here. But Ben-Hur's face is not recognition, because he already had that back on the stairs when he said, "I know this man." It's something else. What do you think it is? I think it's the galvanizing of his new belief here. But just watch Charlton Heston's amazing acting here. Look at this. So he looks up and just look at his face. That's so awesome. He's a great actor. All right, can we just talk about how the pod race is so incredibly like the chariot race in Ben-Hur? The pod race in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is like a futurist, well, I guess it's like a sci-fi mirror of this scene. And I mean, there in the special features, Ben Burt talks about how George Lucas said that this is meant to be like a chariot race. And there's like so many shots, like when the people bring out the flags at the beginning, and just like Masala being like Sebulba, and like the different crashes, like the two scenes are so incredibly similar. And this action scene from 1959, like there's scenes from a million modern movies, action scenes, that don't hold a candle to the awesomeness and just the sheer moxie of this scene. And I do just love that it inspired the pod race so much. There's so many parallels, like the lap counters, and even the tall thing that the people climb up in with like the little bucket to watch. Like there's so many parallels. And that's one fun thing with George Lucas movies, is you can just see him, I don't know if ripping off or being inspired by like older movies in all of his movies. And it's so fun to go watch these older movies where he got his ideas from. Is this movie perfect? A popular website recently gave this movie a 4 out of 5 stars. Now I happen to think that's a little bit of an error in judgment. I think this movie is pretty near perfect. I just think the amount of like Moxie and the action scenes. I mean, this movie goes hard. Even though you could totally tell those little boats shooting little fireballs at each other are little models. I mean, the models are so detailed, but check out the aggressive, crazy, violent Moxie of this scene right here. You got dudes getting speared, you got amputees getting makeup on their amputated limbs to look like they just barely lost them. You got people falling out the boat into water that's on the surface, into water that has flames on the surface. And then you have this scene. He grabs a stick that's on fire and sticks it in this guy's face. I mean, look at this. You know, like, I know he obviously has like stuff, like flammable stuff on his face and fire gel and all the things. But he's just like pounding him in the face with it. What I'm trying to say is that this movie goes hard. In addition to just the amazing epicness of this movie, you have one of the absolute core themes. Listen to this.
I cannot believe that God has let me live these 3 years to die chained to an oar.
It's a strange, stubborn faith you keep. To believe that existence has a purpose.
It's a strange, stubborn faith that you keep. That keeping your faith or gaining new faith is a huge part of this movie. So I think this is absolutely a 5-star movie. I mean, look at this masterful shot here. This thing is less than a second long, this shot. The lightning, this is a reflection of the bloody water with the lightning, and that is beautiful. So the action scenes, the chariot race, the boat battle, Charlton Heston's acting, the epic music, the costumes, all of that easily makes Ben-Hur on 4K very comfortably fit in this crowd. You got the 10 Commandments, Sound of Music, The Searchers, Lawrence of Arabia, 2001 Space Odyssey. Ben-Hur is among the best 4Ks in existence. And it is a beautiful 5+ star movie. So what do you think of this movie? I'm clearly a fan. Please let me know. And if you wouldn't mind being a peach and hyping this video, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next one. Bye.